Yeah, so I would actually suggest, right, that you be sensitive in the market. But as at this moment, I seem to be training people more on Node.js compared to any other language.
Okay, so in the Nigerian market, Node.js is more popular than like PHP and all of that.
In the Nigerian market, as regarding PHP and Node.js, older people are still using PHP. People like me still use, yeah. But the newbies actually use more of JavaScript to be precise.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
sure.
Node.js. Okay.
Yes. So they use Node.js. Why? Because of okay. So most of the people have actually based on experience. Now, when you're actually trying to build more of like microservices based systems, if you're building it without thinking about monolithic, then Node.js is actually the way to go. If you have big data already and you're looking for a backend system to work on, Python is the way to go. So it actually depends on what the company is looking for at that moment. You get it. So and many people are beginning to embrace the idea of best practices and standards to an extent. So for startups actually, startups that are just let me say startups are just starting. Most of them, I got to notice that most of them still use PHP till date.
Okay. For who wants to go into backend in the Nigerian markets can learn either Node.js or PHP, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I guess some of my viewers may like to ask one of your questions. So, but
That's
before
fine.
that, I would like to say that I'll be dropping our link, that's the tech mentorship for junior link YouTube on the chat. I will also be dropping his social media link. So if you would like to follow him, so that was all. So if you have any questions to ask him regarding backend, you can unmute your mic and ask.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Please don't call me sir. Just Schneider is fine. That's fine.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay, can you explain more about TRPC?
Yeah. So basically, I've actually not used it before, to be precise. But based on my understanding, I believe it's more of like trying to. It's one of the type safe APIs that actually gives you the. I don't know if I'm in line with what you're thinking it is, but based on what I understand,
Yes.
it's just like a TypeScript ability to create APIs and all those stuff like that. So I've really not used it before, but I noticed that it's now beginning to have some opportunities in the community, to be precise, right? So
Okay, sir.
at the moment, right now, I believe when I actually decide to jump on technologies, I am focused on what the community provides, the opportunity of what the community provides, and not on the basis of what I feel like, to be precise. I don't know. I've actually not deep. I've not gone deep dive into it, but it's. I believe it does have its potential so far, based on the people who have actually used it so far.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
Yes.
sir. What is the benefit of using TypeScript over JavaScript with Node?
Okay. On the basis of it being typed, I think it creates more of like it gives you an idea of how much systems are working towards best practices. Like for example, when you see a system being typed, you know that okay, let's say you have a string and you're saying okay, this string is meant to be string and the output is nothing is coming out of it apart from that. It gives you an opportunity to create more of like a best practice standard as regarding how you actually process your inputs and your outputs kind of to the next.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I came late. I don't know all about the topic. Sorry.
So basically, we are discussing the backend industry, what it looks like, so to help the junior ones have an insight of what backend is in the real world or in the industry. So that's what we are discussing. Yeah.
Is it DevOps or it's like a backend?
Back-end development. Back-end development.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would like to ask, what are your day-to-day activity as a back-end developer? What do you do in the office? Like yesterday, what did you do in the office? So we'll have an insight of your daily activity.
Okay, so
Yeah.
basically what I do, so my daily activity is very, very dynamic to an extent. So, but I'll try as much as possible to give you some sort of like a structure. Okay, so um, I am a guy who, okay, currently I have a full-time job with a company called Note. And on the side, I actually have several businesses I handle too. I'm actually the board of directors. I'm one of the board of directors of a company called Evendi, and also another company called Prime Minds. It's more of like a health platform in the US, to be precise. So basically, when I wake up in the morning, I make sure that I I don't have any specific time I sleep. To be precise, I can sleep anytime I feel like. But basically, when I wake up in the morning, Mondays and Thursdays, I do Scrum. So let's assume this is Monday. I do a Scrum from 10 o'clock to 10:30. Then I get to oversee my developers. I manage about 7 developers in my full-time job to get to figure out where they are at and what they had done last week. Because last week, Friday, would have been the demo that went on and get to figure out what they are supposed to structure. So as regarding that, it's thing to continue what I actually do on the day-to-day basis. I control the entire backend of the Node system. The entire architecture that goes on, the creation of the APIs and everything. So more of like I'm more of like the manpower of the system at the moment. So it's more of like signing documents, signing affidavits with companies, and also doing video calls with notaries so that they can be able to sign documents. So I leverage on guiding the team on how they can be able to achieve these activities, make suggestions. Then alongside, I speak with my CTO who is in the US um, towards 2 to 3 on a frequent basis, depending on how available he is. Then towards the evening, I focus on my other businesses, like maybe from 4 to like 9 p.m. in the night. I focus on my other businesses because most of them, one of them is in the US and the other one is here in Lagos currently. So towards the period of on Tuesdays, I actually go to the gym. Tuesdays to Wednesdays in the morning. Yeah, Tuesdays to Thursdays, I go to the gym. Sometimes I do secretly. Sometimes I do I do my Scrum meetings on Thursday at the gym.
But
Sometimes.
you don't look like someone that Jimmy. Sorry.
Oh, I don't look like someone that gyms, right?
Yeah.
Don't worry. I'm all those guys that when you look at me, I don't look like someone that gyms. You can see my house here. So I do have a gym in my house, and sometimes I actually
Nice
go to the gym.
nice one.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
love
So
that.
yeah, thank you. So I have the opportunity to, yeah, because sometimes it can be very, very overwhelming to be in this coding space. I try to make sure that the work is not on my head and I try to delegate as much as possible. Before was when I usually used to code my ass off, but these days I don't really stress too much. I just do what I need to do within the time that the task is needed, and I delegate the rest as much as I need to. So I think after the gym, I for the weekends, basically I just stay in my house, and maybe 3 times, maybe every third week, I usually go out to maybe chill with my friends and all those stuff like that. Then on Fridays, I usually go for meetings, for consultation, people who actually want to build platform softwares and all those things like that. I get to see some people on Friday who, some of them I know them, some of them I don't know them, but the meetings usually last from like 5 to 8 in the night, and I come back home, rest and all those stuff like that. I have the opportunity to take like focus on my family and all those stuff like that afterwards. I don't know. I don't really have a structured activity that I do on a daily basis, but that's basically most of it.
Nice one, boss. I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm actually a junior DevOps engineer.
Okay.
So how can I work with the back-end guys, like in terms of a DevOps engineer role?
Okay. Basically, as regarding working with backend guys, it's not as difficult as we think it is. I think more yours is on the part of just development and operations. Sorry, ours is development. Then your part is actually trying to deploy and carry out operations, to be precise. So I think one of the things you can be able to do is getting to understand the scope of what is being built at the moment. First, you need to be concerned about the language and the resources you are actually experiencing as aligned with that language, to be precise. So it sometimes has to do with you trying to set up servers for them to deploy. But I still know some Nigerian companies that would just want to just like
Do
for the
everything.
DevOps guy to just yeah, exactly. You can just do everything. And there are still some people, there are still some companies like
Yeah.
yeah, so they're like African Prudential, their DevOps guy chews a lot. So what he just does is he just sets up the server, gives the person the SSH key and let him deploy. You get so there are still some companies like that. But when it comes to the aspect of doing the real DevOps, the core part of you trying to focus on DevOps will be to make sure that these activities, the servers are available one, and all the resources are available one. Then two, you also make sure that you understand the language that is being built on and look for the right approach to making sure that it gets deployed. Then trying to make sure that it also runs on continuous integration as much as possible. That is CI/CD. Yeah. Then you do your deployment. There are a lot of people that are moving from just a normal convention into Terraform at the moment, and
Yeah,
people
Terraform
are
use
yeah.
it as an infrastructure as a code. You can
Yes,
use it to
exactly.
deploy the server, spin up a
Yeah.
server on either end of the clouds. Yeah.
Any of the clouds, exactly. So that gives you an opportunity to carry out as much as you want to do. But the core thing is just having a little bit of you mustn't necessarily understand the logic of code. Yours is just to just deploy, and the rest is history. So, but yeah.
Okay, as a Node.js backend developer, is there any specific framework you think the person should learn? Like how many Node.js framework you think the person should learn?
So here's the thing. There's what they call code conventions and codility structures, right? Now, this is one of the things that I noticed that people are getting to miss out when it comes to the aspect of code delivery and code, like on the basis of how you deploy, on the basis of how you code out. So to me, if you bring any language to me, right, okay, let me put it this way. I am a PHP guy. I've not really done too much of Node.js, but I can teach someone who wants to learn Node.js. Why? Because there's what they call codility structures and code conventions. You know how to call variables, you know how to call state management, you know how to do state management and all those stuff. So having an understanding of what framework you feel you want to use based on what is being demanded, sometimes I feel like it's kind of tricky because I might decide to use one framework today, and when I go to another company, they're using a different framework. So it's important to understand the universal concept of how code works to an extent, rather than just being concerned about the framework itself, right? I don't know if you understand where I'm coming from. So
Yes.
codility structures and code conventions, like for example, if I'm calling a variable today, all I just need to do in PHP is to do a dollar sign equal to something, right?
Yes, yes.
The same thing goes for calling a variable for almost the same thing, only that I just need to remove the dollar sign away from it. So the same thing goes with loops. The same thing goes with, there are a whole lot of things you can actually, so you shouldn't be focused about the framework this time around. You should be focused about the core languages and what they provide and how similar they are to an extent. But trust me, if you understand one language, you can have the potential to understand as many languages as you want to understand.
Okay.
That is my thoughts. That's my belief. That's my. So I don't necessarily believe in frame. I believe framework actually makes things faster as possible. That one is no doubt. But the core thing is you can't give me Next.js to start doing when I don't understand JavaScript. Right?
Yes.
But if I understand JavaScript by default, I can be able to go into Python. If you show me a for loop in Python, I will know it's a for loop. If you show me a for loop in JavaScript or PHP, I will know it's actually it. So the core thing there is not necessarily the framework or the choice of framework, is your performance. It's on the basis of how much you're able to read code. And many people run away from this, especially developers. Okay, I've also been a part of this too. So next, when I was actually coding so massively then, a client to give me a system to develop and to work on someone else's code, and I'll just tell the coder, man, I'll just tell the client, man, this code is bullshit, man. We need to start from scratch. Yes, exactly. I don't think, and the crazy part about it is I don't even settle down to look at the code, because yes, sometimes it can actually be very, very strenuous settling down to look at someone else's code. But we need to try as much as possible to figure out how best we can be able to leverage on reading people's work. So that's a superpower, honestly. It's a huge superpower. You get, it's not just coding and deployment. A lot of people do it even till date, where they say, we need to start from scratch. So there come some certain scenarios where I feel like, okay, this thing doesn't have, it's only when I see that this code base doesn't have a foundation, right, that I say, okay, please, we need to move to something else, or we need to do this and that. But meanwhile, while we're doing this, let's do this. So I don't just open my mouth and say, okay, yeah, we need to start from scratch. Like, let's assume a company reaches out to you and says, okay, this is the code I did for this company, and I want you to continue from there and all the stuff. You can't just say you want to be, because the company is burning a lot of money. They spent a lot of money with this company, and they are giving it to you, and you say you want to build it from scratch. You'll be collecting another new money again from them. So it's a superpower for you to settle down to read code. But many people don't get to understand it. And another thing I think many people underestimate is the power of creation. Because many people feel like, yes, creation is actually, most of the time, be tied to value and money to an extent. Yes, to a very large extent, it is. But people underestimate the idea of being a creator. You get, and if you don't understand the idea of being a creator, you will always say, I better get out, PHP is dead. You get, because you can create anything out of nothing, actually. Yeah, to be honest with you, you can create anything out of nothing. So if let's assume you had an opportunity to use, yes, I know that, yes, you have free resources to do a lot of things, but let's assume PHP was the only means you can be able to build a platform. We say PHP is dead. No. So getting to understand the power to create is one of the most important things of life, rather than even thinking about the language itself. And I think it doesn't make sense to actually be concerned about what the language actually, you should actually flow with community, but trying to chastise one language to another, sometimes I feel like it's not really should I say mature, whatever the case may be. Because everybody's creating, everybody's creating. I know someone till date, right? I know someone, and the guy, I think he's an Indian guy. He was a blogger before. He went into development, and I think he created a plugin in Google Docs that actually makes things easy for people who are using Excel sheets. Do you know that the people who patronizes his plugin are people from Pentagon? But guess what he built it with? HTML, CSS, and jQuery, not even React, not even the framework.
Wow.
And he has sold $20 million. If I remember the name, I'll let. But you can check it online. Actually, the guy is popular online. So he built a plugin. So he understood the part of the fact that, yes, I can create. I'm a creator. So whatever language I create it with, I'm giving people what they want. But many people, many devs are too concerned about the language and the tech they use. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but is the period of relevance that you should be concerned about language. When you know that it has exceeded capacity, that's when you know that, oh, I need another language to do this. Then you begin to understand the core concept of where languages are applied and where I can't use PHP to do cryptocurrency. I will just destroy the system. That's when I know that, okay, yes, I need JavaScript or nodejs to do. So that's just my thought.
Okay.
But if you understand the core basics of coding languages and you're able to read code, then the rest is easy. It's a huge superpower.
Okay.
So that's my thought.
So my question is, what is your biggest challenge you faced as a developer, and how were you able to overcome it?
Okay, so most of the challenges I had faced, right, it had been more on, okay, I think it grew over time. First of all, it was my systems always shutting down. So I worked with a company called iRecharge. I noticed that every 2 p.m. every day, the system crashes. And they were dealing on almost 30,000 transactions per minute. So from that moment, I got to understand the idea of load balancing, this one, that one. Then DevOps was not there before. So that was like a challenge to me because I wasn't there. Then later I grew to documentation. Another challenge grew to documentation. So most of these things actually happens on the basis of what you're experiencing so far. But I'll just be sharing them stage by stage. There was another period where we got acquired in 2021. I was the CTO of the business, and so one of the can you guys hear me?
Okay, yes, it's back.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know. I just got logged off. I don't know what happened.
Please kindly, because our time is almost up, just summarize.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think on the basis of challenges, everything actually went one step at a time. It was either server issues. I think one of the core challenges I had was reading people's code, kind of. So reading people's code was one of my major challenges, actually. But it's something I actually grew over to. Yes, I think when the code dropped off and I came back, I now remembered what the core thing was. Then later I grew to server systems and all those stuff, trying to do deployment, solutions architecture. Then I think another challenge I've been having too is also management, and the politics that happens in management at the moment. So I think that would answer that question.